For close to 50 years, one stubborn door in Graceland stayed bolted shut. Dust blanketed its knob. Spiders spun silvery webs across the frame, and even Elvis Presley's closest kin tiptoed past without touching it. When the lock finally surrendered, the attic unleashed a shock bigger than any encore. Someone had been living right over the king's head the whole time. The air felt thick, almost haunted. Who dared squat inside Elvis's attic for nearly 5 decades? And did the Presley family keep that chilling secret hidden? The mystery had teeth, and it was about to bite. The story begins on a mild spring morning in 1957. Elvis, only 22, steered his pink Cadillac through cast-iron gates and parked beneath towering oaks. Before him stood a grand, pillared mansion painted the cleanest white Memphis had ever seen. Price tag, $12,500, worth almost $1 million today. He read the carved name on the stone wall, smiled, and left it untouched Graceland. In that instant, a house fused with destiny. At first, it was just a place to sleep, yet the land soon melded with Elvis's soul. Nearly 14 rolling acres stretched behind the porch, dotted with red barns, weathered stables, and horses galloping through knee-high grass. Every corner crackled with movement. Kitchen staff humming gospel, lawn crews revving mowers, and bodyguards laughing beside gleaming Cadillacs. The estate felt like a living organism. None of those hearts beat louder than Scatter, a mischievous chimp Elvis adored. Decked in tiny jackets and Johnny caps, Scatter gate-crashed Hollywood parties, yanked hems on women's dresses, and swiped bourbon glasses with lightning speed. The staff swore Scatter was Elvis's wild alter ego let loose in fur. Guests never forgot the shrieks, the chaos, or the roar of Elvis's laughter echoing down the hallways. Fame kept roaring, but by 1964, while the Beatles conquered America, Elvis carved out silence. He built a meditation garden tucked beside fragrant magnolia trees. Marble angels guarded fountains that whispered, and neat flower beds exploded with azaleas. Beneath the wide Tennessee sky, Elvis sat alone, letting the water murmur drown the screams of concert arenas. Fans saw rhinestone flare. He craved whispered peace. Other wings of Graceland shouted his playful side. The jungle room wore emerald shag carpet on the floor and the walls, and heavy carved furniture looked stolen from a distant island, with a built-in waterfall gurgling beside neon lamps. Down 2 flights, a futuristic TV room glowed midnight blue, letting him watch 3 channels at once, unheard of in the 60s. Across the lawn, a racquetball building glittered, its polished piano waiting for chords that would become his last notes. Then August 16, 1977, crashed down like thunder. Elvis Presley collapsed in his upstairs bathroom, and the world stopped breathing. Graceland shifted overnight from lively playground to sacred shrine. Within 72 hours, almost 100,000 mourners poured into Memphis. They jammed sidewalks, clutched candles, and pressed faces to the wrought iron fence, hoping for one final glimpse. Inside, under crystal chandeliers, Elvis lay in a crisp white suit with a soft blue shirt, an image seared into every witness. August 18th brought a funeral fit for royalty. 17 gleaming white Cadillacs rolled behind the hearse, engines humming like a solemn choir. James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., and Caroline Kennedy bowed alongside Priscilla, 9-year-old Lisa Marie, and a shattered Vernon Presley. Elvis was lowered beside his mother Gladys at Forest Hill Cemetery, and hush fell over the crowd. Peace lasted less than 48 hours. Under moonlight, grave robbers crept to the cemetery, trying to steal Elvis's coffin. They smashed marble, but failed to flee before police lights flashed. The warning was brutal. Even in death, the king remained hot property. Sick at heart, Vernon Presley acted fast. Guided by police, he moved both Elvis and Gladys after midnight, reburying them inside the meditation garden. The serene haven Elvis loved most. That secret transfer changed everything. Graceland turned into a fortress. Vernon installed piercing alarms, stationed guards around the clock, and slammed doors on the mansion's entire second floor, attic included. The official line sounded simple, privacy, but whispers of darker reasons simmered. Elvis's bedroom, the bathroom where he died, and hallways stuffed with personal treasures were sealed forever out of respect. Or so the brochures claimed. Year by year, curiosity grew. After Vernon's passing, Graceland opened for tours in 1982. Fans trotted through most rooms, gawking at the kitchen where Elvis fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, marveling at stained glass peacocks, and standing silent at his grave. Yet halfway up the grand staircase, a velvet rope glowed like a stop sign. The attic door above never shifted a millimeter. Even presidents pleaded in vain. Guides repeated one sentence: "The upstairs is private," out of respect for the family. The script never changed. For 48 unbroken years, no outsider set foot beyond that rope. The forbidden floor became Graceland's loudest riddle. Tourists stared at gold records and rhinestone jumpsuits, but their eyes kept drifting upward, imagining forgotten diaries, lost tapes, maybe even Elvis's final note. Tour buses sometimes idled outside for hours while visitors traded wild theories, each guest crazier than the last. Yet every rumor only sharpened the legend of the locked upstairs. And while that attic guarded its physical secrets, an even darker question lurked in plain sight: the true story of how the king of rock and roll met his end. What secret did Elvis's own doctor stash away while a nation mourned the king's collapse on that blazing August day in 1977? Graceland fell silent on August 16, 1977. Curtains stayed clamped tight, blocking harsh afternoon light, and the upstairs bedrooms felt like cold caves. At 42, Elvis's body clock was upside down, awake all night, crashing by dawn, then drifting through drug-induced sleep that sometimes lasted days. Ginger Alden, the king's girlfriend, rolled out of bed near 2 in the afternoon. Nothing seemed strange at first, because late starts were normal in the Presley mansion. She showered, picked out a summer dress, and expected Elvis to appear with his trademark grin. Yet the house sounded wrong. No footsteps, no joking security men, no distant music. By 2:30, she felt dread slide down her spine. Ginger knocked on the master bathroom door. Silence. She pushed inside and froze. Elvis lay crumpled on the tile, pajama bottoms tangled around his ankles. His face was a terrifying shade of blue. Ginger screamed for help, her voice echoing down the hall like a siren. Joe Esposito, road manager and loyal friend, charged upstairs and dropped to his knees. He pounded CPR into Elvis's chest, while another aide dialed emergency services. Within minutes, the hallway filled with paramedics racing a gurney toward the ambulance. Sirens howled through humid Memphis streets. Medics shocked his chest again and again, praying for a rhythm. At 3:30 p.m., doctors at Baptist Memorial Hospital whispered the words nobody wanted to hear: Elvis Presley was gone. Fans heard the news on radios and crumpled in tears. How could the king vanish at only 42? That evening, Dr. Jerry Francisco, the medical examiner, faced reporters. He delivered a single neat verdict: cardiac arrhythmia. Heart simply stopped. Natural causes, he insisted. Case closed. But America sensed a cover-up. Even in 1977, people noticed Elvis's drastic change. The once slim powerhouse now tipped the scales near 260 pounds. On stage, he sometimes forgot lyrics, rambled between songs, or leaned on bandmates to stay upright. Behind those wobbling performances hid a medical nightmare. The autopsy later revealed an enlarged heart, a swollen liver, and damaged screaming of long-term prescription abuse. Toxicology tests uncovered sky-high levels of Dilaudid, Quaaludes, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine, names that painted a grim rainbow inside his veins. Why did Dr. Francisco dodge that truth? Some said he wanted to protect Elvis's image and spare the grieving family. Others whispered something darker, a shield for physicians who kept signing prescription pads. Enter Dr. George Nicopolos, better known as Dr. Nick. Since 1967, he had been Elvis's personal physician and gatekeeper to an endless pharmacy. From January through August 1977 alone, Dr. Nick wrote scripts totaling more than 10,000 pills, sedatives, stimulants, strong painkillers, enough to stock a small hospital. The year before was almost as shocking: 19,000 pills in 1976. Investigators later counted 195 prescriptions in the final 8 months, about one fresh script every 48 hours. Dr. Nick always had a defense ready. He claimed Elvis suffered real pain, migraines from an Army head injury. severe glaucoma, and a gut disease called regional enteritis. The pills, he said, eased those conditions. Then came his boldest justification. Flooding Elvis with medication, he argued, was safer than letting the superstar buy mystery pills on street corners. If I hadn't given them to him, he would have gotten them somewhere else, Dr. Nick told medical boards. He insisted he was tapering doses while watching over his patient. Fans saw a different story. Elvis burned through nights on amphetamines, then hammered himself to sleep with downers. He gobbled greasy food by the platter, then relied on harsh laxatives to drop weight fast. On his final morning, he played racquetball, popped another cluster pills, and crawled into bed. Those last doses slammed an already strained heart, and the muscle failed. Tennessee officials were not convinced by Dr. Nick's explanations. In 1980, he was charged with 14 counts of overprescribing, not only to Elvis but to other clients. A jury found him not guilty, yet the scrutiny never let up. The Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners kept digging. In 1995, 18 years after Elvis's death, they yanked Dr. Nick's license forever. Professional exile arrived too late for the king. Then 2020 dropped a new twist. Author Sally A. Hodel published Destined to Die Young and argued genetics, not just pills, doomed Elvis. She pointed to alpha, 1 antitrypsin deficiency, a hidden disorder that weakens lungs and liver. The book also suggested his immune system was naturally frail, explaining the constant illness that fueled prescription use. If Hodel is right, Elvis was not simply an addict. He was a very sick man trying to soothe pain doctors did not fully grasp in the 1970s. Those midnight hospital runs may have been genuine emergencies, not drug-seeking errands. Still, one question roars louder than any guitar riff. Did someone bury the full truth to protect reputations, or has the truth been clawing its way into daylight all along? The fight over Presley's secrets did not end with medical files. In spring 2024, Elvis fans reeled after an obscure outfit named Nosny Investments and Private Lending LLC filed papers to auction Graceland itself. Court filings claimed Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and sole heir after Lisa Marie Presley's 2023 passing, had defaulted on a $3.8 million loan. The announcement exploded across social media. Dedicated fan pages, always hawk-eyed about every Presley headline, flooded with panic and disbelief. How could the world's most iconic rock and roll landmark be yanked from family hands without warning? The shockwave proved that even decades after his death, the king's legacy still sits on a knife edge, teetering between rumor and revelation. Riley Keough's legal team didn't blink. They launched into action like lightning. They raced to the courthouse in Shelby County, Tennessee, filing an emergency motion to stop the shocking sale of Graceland. Their claim? The entire deal was faked. According to their documents, Riley had never signed anything with Nosny Investments. The signature? A sloppy forgery. Someone had tried to steal Graceland by faking her name, but the clock was ticking fast. The auction date was already set. If the judge didn't act quickly, Graceland, Elvis's private rooms, rare recordings, and every priceless memory would belong to total strangers within days. Then, just one day before the sale, the courtroom heard the verdict. A Tennessee judge halted the auction immediately. He called Graceland a one-of-a-kind cultural asset and warned that losing it would deeply hurt the public. And here's the twist. No one from Nosny Investments even showed up to defend themselves. The court sided with Riley by default, and just like that, Graceland stayed in Presley hands. But this wasn't the first time Graceland had pulled people into strange and wild stories. Ever since Elvis's death in 1977, one bizarre theory refused to die. The belief that Elvis never actually passed away. Just hours after his death hit the news, a mysterious man calling himself John Burroughs, a name Elvis used for private travel, allegedly bought a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires from the Memphis airport. Witnesses swore he looked just like Elvis, heavier, yes, but still wearing a white suit and dark sunglasses at night. Only 2 weeks later, a woman in Michigan said Elvis himself served her a burger at a Kalamazoo Burger King. She claimed she knew it wasn't the second he asked, "Want extra cheese?" Because the voice was that familiar. You'd think the stories would have stopped. But they exploded. By 1979, hundreds of Elvis sightings were being reported. Elvis was seen pumping gas in Oklahoma, buying snacks in a Missouri grocery store, sitting at a Nashville concert in a fake beard. It became so wild that in 1988, Weekly World News launched an Elvis Watch section just to keep up with the madness. Some theories got even wilder. One claimed Elvis helped the FBI take down organized crime, then vanished into the Witness Protection Program. Others said he faked his death just to escape the suffocating weight of fame. Some whispered that he had cancer and wanted privacy in his final days. Believers pointed to odd details from the funeral. Why did the casket reportedly weigh 900 pounds? Why a closed casket after a public viewing? And most famous of all, why was Aaron spelled with 2 A's on his tombstone when Elvis himself spelled it Aaron? That mistake made believers say, he's not in there. Then the internet added fuel to the fire. In the early 2000s, whole websites were built just to prove Elvis was alive. YouTube exploded with videos comparing Elvis's voice to a preacher named Bob Joyce, whose singing does sound eerily like the King's. Even now, in 2025, almost 50 years later, online groups still claim Elvis is alive. Some think he's living quietly under a different name. Others say he sometimes visits Graceland in disguise. For the Presley family, these rumors are a double-edged sword. If they fight them too hard, it makes people suspicious. If they stay quiet, the theories just get wilder. But in all this noise, one hard truth gets buried. Elvis might still be alive, but those around him care more about his health than his fame and fortune. The fantasies let people off the hook. But Riley Keough wasn't about to stay quiet anymore. Once the fake sale was shut down, she did something no one in her family had ever done. She unlocked the attic. The attic unlocked. On a chilly January morning in 2025, a small group of archivists in white gloves tiptoed up Graceland's attic stairs. Their steps echoed off wooden walls untouched for nearly 50 years. The air was thick and still, like time had been holding its breath. No one had entered this space since Elvis died in 1977. A single bare bulb lit the brass key as the lead archivist carefully turned it. This key had stayed in the Presley family for decades. The door creaked open like it had been waiting. Light poured into a room no one had seen in half a century. This wasn't just storage. It was a secret museum. The attic stretched across the whole top floor. Thick blackout curtains covered the dormer windows. Unlike the flashy, over-the-top style downstairs, this space was plain, bare with floors, simple walls, and a strange chill in the air. A small air conditioner, still quietly running after all these years, kept the room cool. Graceland staff had maintained it without ever stepping inside. One wall was lined with dozens of boxes, each labeled in Elvis's own handwriting. Tupelo, 1945. First recordings. Army Days. Hollywood. Comeback Special. Vegas. But one box stood out. It was marked only after, dated 1977, the very year Elvis died. The archivists got to work slowly, like museum curators handling ancient treasure. Every item was photographed before being touched. Each box was numbered, its contents carefully logged. The very first item stunned everyone. In the Tupelo box, they found a battered teddy bear, missing one eye, its fur stitched with faded patches. This wasn't just a keepsake. It was Bear, Elvis's favorite toy from childhood. Family notes confirmed it. His mother, Gladys, had sewn the patches from scraps of her own dresses during the hard times. When Vernon Presley had gone to jail in 1938 for writing bad checks, leaving young Elvis and Gladys nearly broke. Bear had been his comfort in those dark days. In the Army Days box, they found a Bible so worn its spine was held together with electrical tape. It had belonged to Gladys. She gave it to Elvis in 1958 when he shipped out for military service. Inside, she'd written a heartfelt message urging him to stay faithful. Scrawled in the margins were Elvis's own thoughts, underlined verses, scribbled questions, quiet prayers. It was the kind of thing no fan had ever seen before, and it was only the beginning. One of the last notes in the attic stopped everyone cold. It was dated August 1977, just days before Elvis died. He had marked Psalm 23 in his mother's Bible, a passage about walking through the valley of death. The room went silent. Then came another emotional find. a leather-bound yearbook from Hume's high school. Elvis usually avoided signing books. He was shy, often mocked for his clothes and quiet voice. But this one was filled with messages from classmates. One note read, "Keep singing, Elvis. You're going places." It was a time capsule of teenage hope. The Hollywood box pulled the curtain back on another side of the king, his battle with fame. Inside was a leather jacket made for jailhouse rock. In the pocket, a tiny handwritten note. "Wear this when you need to disappear." That jacket wasn't just a costume. It was his armor. Elvis has said many times that being famous felt like a cage. The jacket was his way to hide, to escape the spotlight when it burned too bright. Next to the movie memorabilia was a pile of books on Buddhism, the afterlife, and big spiritual questions. They were full of underlines and scribbled thoughts. These weren't the books of a man chasing applause. These were the books of someone searching, someone trying to find meaning beyond the noise. Then came the biggest shock in the Vegas section. A doctor's report from 1974 marked confidential. The contents were sealed, still waiting for family review. But even the cover was chilling. It warned of serious heart problems and said Elvis had to make major lifestyle changes. He didn't. Instead, he kept touring for 3 more years. Lisa Marie Presley had known about the attic. She chose to honor her father's wishes and kept it closed while she was alive. But after her passing in 2023, Riley Keough decided the time had come not to put all on display, but to finally document what was inside. The attic was an escape route. It was a goodbye letter, carefully packed away with the final thoughts, memories, and keepsakes of a man who knew his time was running out. And then came the moment no one could prepare for, those old, dusty tapes. They weren't show recordings or chart hits. These were the last words of a man speaking into silence. His voice came through, shaky, emotional, raw. What was hidden in Elvis's attic? When the team unlocked Graceland's attic in January 2025, it felt like they stepped into another lifetime. Nothing inside had been touched since August 1977. The silence was so thick it felt like the room itself had been waiting. But this wasn't just storage. It was sacred. In one corner, a plain stack of reel-to-reel tapes caught everyone's eye, written in Elvis's own handwriting. Practice Sessions 1976. These weren't polished or produced. It was just him, alone, experimenting, mixing gospel, blues, and even some early electronic sounds. Then they found a recording that stopped hearts cold, a version of Unchained Melody, just Elvis and his voice. No band, no piano, just him. The sound was fragile but soul deep, a music expert later said. It felt like he was facing his own death through the song. His voice cracked in places, but that's what made it real. You could feel every word. As the archivists dug deeper, they found treasures far more personal than any rhinestone suit. Scribbled lyrics on napkins, hotel notepads with verses scratched out and rewritten, even alternate lines to suspicious minds that never made the final cut. These scraps gave a glimpse into his mind, a man who never stopped creating, even when the world thought he was fading. But the saddest discovery was a pile of unopened fan letters, still sealed, never read. Some were from soldiers who said Elvis's music kept them going, families who said his songs helped them survive grief, young artists asking for advice. One letter, postmarked 1976, begged him to take a break and take care of his health. It had never been opened. Maybe, just maybe, if he'd read it, things might have gone differently. Together, these attic pieces painted a deeper portrait than any biography ever had. They told the story of a man full of talent and heartbreak, a man who kept a childhood teddy bear sewn by his mother, who took time to mark Bible verses, who sang into the dark even when no one was listening. He wasn't just a legend, he was human, and for some fans, that realization brought peace. These weren't leftovers. These were carefully chosen pieces of a life. It felt like Elvis wanted them to stay exactly where they were, at home in Graceland. But not everyone felt closure. The mystery didn't disappear, it deepened. Why had these intimate things stayed hidden for so long? What else might still be tucked away, waiting to be found? Could more secrets be hiding in plain sight? Back in 2018, Elvis was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, another reminder of how deeply he shaped America. But maybe the real legacy isn't found in the gold records or awards. Maybe it's in those boxes upstairs, in the attic that held not just history, but the soul of a man people are still trying to understand.